now that we have the basics of the Canary Islands and its conquest, we can talk more about the natives. So of the several islands off the coast of Africa, the Canaries were the only islands that had indigenous people inhabiting them. So we talked about the Spanish, the Portuguese explorers, but who were the natives? So the natives, currently known as Guanches, were actually different people or tribes of Berber origin. So the same origin as the Moors that conquered Spain for 800 years. Yeah, those people. They inhabited the island until the Kingdom of Castile conquered them or invaded them between 1402 and 1496. We know their genetic origin because they practiced mummification, so we found mummies. But currently scholars don't believe that they themselves knew where they came from. Although they all had common roots, each island had its own laws, its own customs, which obviously made them have their confrontations between them and with the future conquistadores. So if you notice here are the islands. These are the original indigenous names for these islands with the original indigenous people from each island. So there are about 8 tribes. They lived very simply, herding goats and sheep. They had kings who ruled over them. We don't know a lot about their social structure except what obviously the Europeans cared to share. But we really have to take their descriptions with a grain of salt. The people that the Spanish found in the Canaries had brown complexions, blue or gray eyes, and blondish hair. And most of the these characteristics still exist today in the people who currently inhabit the island, but they're barely distinguishable in appearance or culture from the people of Spain. This image here is supposedly a reconstruction of one of the mummies that they found on the island. So I feel like this is, in my opinion, and from all the articles I have read, I agree with what Laura Lewis, author of Hall of Mirrors, Power, Witchcraft, and Caste in Colonial Mexico, actually argues. And I'm going to apply it to the Guanches because I feel that it kind of connects better. So she wrote that while Indians were given a social political designation, Africans were labeled with the color term, negro. So the Spanish thus saw Indios as something like themselves. But about blacks, they were more ambivalent. And I honestly believe that this was the case because look at them. I feel that this caused a really, really big problem. Because even though racism, as we know racism now, wasn't established yet, it was already beginning. The Portuguese had already transported several Africans to the Iberian Peninsula by this time, and slavery, as we know, had always existed. It was part of the actual framework of society at the time. However, their interaction with the Guanches caused a very big moral problem. Dr. Emily Berquist Soul of California State University in Long Beach explains really well the problem that arose. So she states in her essay that from the 8th century on, the Spanish and Portuguese gained extensive experience in fighting, subjugating, and enslaving the North African Muslims who had invaded Iberia starting in 710. But as we now have come to know, the Arabs were already making a distinction between their white slaves that were more expensive and their black slaves who were more economical. Even though originally there was a huge interest from the Catholic authorities to convert them, like that was the purpose of these expeditions, sailors and pirates searching for supplies and trade items that landed on this island quickly realized that they could repay their creditors by enslaving the natives.